Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I am literally so pumped to have you here today because we're about to tear down pretty much everything you thought you knew about getting stronger and building size. You see, here's the really wild part. Building muscle doesn't actually start in the gym. I mean, it doesn't start in your biceps and it doesn't start in your quads. It actually starts right between your ears. It starts in your brain.
Now, if you've spent, any time at all in the fitness world, you've definitely heard the classic bro science myth. The idea that if you want massive muscles, you just have to lift massive, ultra-heavy weights. But what if I told you that modern neuroscience and exercise physiology have completely turned that upside down? Honestly, moving moderate weights can get you the exact same, if not better, results for muscle growth. Crazy, right? So here is our science-backed workout life cycle blueprint for today. We're going to cover 1. The brain-muscle connection, 2. Rethinking the muscle burn, 3. Rules for muscle growth, 4. Fueling your performance, and finally, 5. The science of recovery. All right, let's jump right into part 1, the brain-muscle connection. To really grasp muscle growth, we have to look at how your body actually tells a muscle to move in the first place. It all starts with the upper motor neurons in your brain. They send electrical signals down into your spinal cord, which then shoot wires out to your muscles, basically commanding them to contract. And there's a core rule to this whole process called the Henneman Size Principle. Simply put, your nervous system is kind of lazy, but in a good way. It really wants to conserve energy, so it only recruits the lowest effort neural wires first. It's only as an exercise gets noticeably harder that your brain is forced to recruit those higher threshold motor units. And that recruitment, that high effort neural wiring, that is the absolute secret that opens the floodgates for muscle growth.
Actually, let's test your own brain-muscle connection right now. Try this for me. Sit perfectly still. Put all your mental focus on your calf muscle and just flex it as hard as you can without moving your ankle. Keep flexing it until it almost feels like it's going to cramp. Did you do it? Because if you can force it to cramp just by using your mind, that means you have incredibly efficient neural control over that muscle. And scientifically speaking, you've got a super high growth potential for that specific muscle when you actually trained it in the gym.
Okay, moving right along to part 2, rethinking the muscle burn.
We absolutely all know that intense burning sensation during a grueling set, right? It happens when your muscles demand energy way faster than your body can supply oxygen. But here's the thing, that sensation is completely misunderstood. First off, totally forget the term lactic acid. Humans literally do not even produce it. We produce something called lactate. And lactate is definitely not the bad guy causing the burn. It's actually the superhero swooping in to save you. It acts as a buffer to lower muscle acidity, it serves as a secondary fuel source so you can keep grinding, and amazingly, it acts as a hormonal signal that travels all the way to your brain and heart to improve their overall health. But there is a catch here. You definitely don't want to be in that intense burn zone for your entire workout. The science suggests you should aim for that heavy lactate-inducing burn for only about 10% of your total workout time. Just 10%. That small fraction is perfectly enough to safely reap those incredible brain-boosting and heart-strengthening hormonal benefits without completely frying your central nervous system.
All right, now for the main event, part 3, rules for muscle growth.
The absolute most crucial thing here is understanding your actual goal. Like, are you training for size or are you training for strength? Because they require completely opposite strategies from your nervous system. For hypertrophy, which is muscle size, you want to strictly isolate a specific muscle, forcing it to do all of the work totally alone. It's an unnatural movement, but it forces adaptation. But if you're training for sheer strength, you want your nervous system to distribute the load across multiple muscles to move that weight as efficiently as possible.
So when you do isolate that muscle and apply stress, tension, and, a little bit of damage, here is what happens on a microscopic level. I want you to imagine the proteins inside your muscle, the myosin filaments, as this big, messy bouquet of balloons with strings of all different lengths. When they get properly stimulated by your nervous system, the balloons themselves, the myosin heads, literally get thicker. And that protein synthesis, that is the actual physical manifestation of muscle growth.
But to get those balloons to grow, or honestly even just to keep them their current size, you gotta put in the work. And here's a pretty harsh physiological truth. If you want to simply maintain the muscle mass you currently have right now, just to offset normal age-related decline, you need an absolute minimum of 5 working sets per muscle group per week. Literally anything less than that and you are slowly losing muscle.
Now, if your goal is to actually grow, here is your hypertrophy blueprint. You're going to want to aim for 10 to 15 sets per muscle per week. And remember that whole heavy weight myth we talked about earlier? Well, the science shows you can use anywhere from 30% to 80% of your 1 rep max. As long as you are performing those sets near failure, meaning you physically could not do another rep with good form, that muscle is going to grow. Also, moving the weight just a bit slower ensures you aren't cheating with momentum, which keeps that muscle totally isolated.
Let's shift gears to part 4, fueling your performance.
Generating these intense, isolated muscle contractions requires a massive amount of metabolic energy, not to mention top-tier nerve-to-muscle communication. So here are the heavy-hitting supplements backed by the literature to really build your foundation. First up, salt and electrolytes. I know, it doesn't sound super glamorous, but sodium is literally the exact ion that generates the electricity in your neurons to fire your muscles. It's non-negotiable. Then there's creatine, which is incredibly well-researched for boosting power output and reducing fatigue. Beta-alanine absolutely shines for muscular endurance, especially in that 60 to 240-second range. And leucine, which is an essential amino acid, is absolutely vital for triggering that protein synthesis we talked about, getting those myosin balloons to thicken up.
And finally, let's talk about part 5, the science of recovery.
Okay, time for a reality check. Your muscles do not actually grow while you're sweating it out in the gym. The gym is literally just the stimulus. Your muscles grow while you're recovering on the couch or fast asleep in your bed. Which brings us to this massive fitness trend that we desperately need to clarify: cold exposure and ice baths. Hopping into an ice bath right after lifting weights is a terrible idea if your goal is muscle growth. It completely blunts the acute, local inflammation that your muscles absolutely need as a signal to grow. Now sure, if you're an endurance athlete who just needs systemic recovery to go train again later that day, cold exposure is great. But for hypertrophy, please keep the ice bath far, far away from your lifting sessions.
So then, how do you objectively know if your nervous system is actually recovered enough to hit the weights again? Well, try the carbon dioxide tolerance test first thing in the morning. Here is the exact protocol. Wake up, take 4 deep breaths, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Then take 1 massive, lung-filling inhale. Finally, exhale through your mouth as slowly as humanly possible, almost like you're breathing out through a tiny straw. And time exactly how long it takes to completely empty your lungs.
Here is how you score your nervous system's recovery based on that exhale time. If your discard time is 20 seconds or less, your nervous system is highly stressed and you are definitely not fully recovered. If you're in the 40 to 60 second range, you're in the green zone, totally good to go. And if you can stretch that exhale out to 65 seconds or maybe even 2 minutes, your parasympathetic nervous system is incredibly calm and you are 100% recovered for a super intense training session.
I really want to leave you with this absolutely vital takeaway from the source material. Quote, recovery is what dictates whether or not you can come back and do more work, and whether or not you'll see any improvement at all. Without proper recovery, literally all of that incredible, hyper-focused effort on the gym floor is completely wasted. So armed with this neuroscience blueprint, knowing that you can absolutely use moderate weights, that you need to isolate for size, and that recovery is just non-negotiable, will you rethink your next workout, or are you still going to skip recovery day? Take these tools, test your mind-muscle connection, and train smarter. If you found this explainer helpful, please do hit that like button. Definitely subscribe to the channel for more focused learning, and I will see you in the next one.